Hello and welcome back to Rabobank's live stream of the Farm2Fork event here on Cockatoo Island in Sydney. If you enjoyed this morning where we interviewed members of the RaboResearch team, you're going to love this afternoon as we start to bring members of this event who spoke on the main stage here on the secondary stage to interview them to make sure the key messages get out as widely as possible to our client base and industry. And with that in mind, first cab off the rank, it's my pleasure to introduce Stefan Hajkowicz. Welcome to live stream.
Thank you very much. Pleased to be here.
So Stefan, you have the best title I've ever heard. Senior Principal Scientist of Strategy and Foresight at CSIRO, but also leader of the Data 61 Insight team. But in layman's terms, you put that really nicely that you spend your time thinking about the future and practical ways to help people make wise choices. Yeah. So your topic was, of course, which you've just delivered, the 7 main mega trends that are starting to impact or impacting humanity and therefore ag. Can you start by defining for us, what do you mean by a mega trend?
So a mega trend is a concept that we take from a US academic, John Naisbitt, in 1984. He wrote a book called Megatrends, where a lot of trends and drivers come together to create this more significant trajectory of change, which will build gradually, but eventually express with explosive force and put your farm, your business, your enterprise into quite a different space from where it is today. So they're visible, but understanding and giving structure and context to a megatrend is what's important. Lets you read it, understand it, work out how to manage the risks and capture the opportunities. So it's a powerful concept within the field of strategic foresight that's used to explore the future. And we've built a whole methodology of analytics around defining megatrends to ultimately help people make wiser choices.
Yep, and Stefan, you gave a really nice analogy that I found helped with the explanation. That megatrends are a little bit like a rip on an ocean beach. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so rips in the Australian surf are deadly, way more deadly than sharks or other risks at the beach. 200 people have tragically lost their lives to rips, and 4 million Australians have been caught in a rip. Yep. However, if you do the right thing in a rip, your chances are really good, and that means you've got to understand you're in it. So if you're in a rip, it's something that you don't know that's happening to you and it feels terrible. You're getting dragged out to sea, you might get dragged under, but if you understand you're in a rip, you know not to swim against it and not to panic, and that is already going to be your best chance at survival. You keep your head above water and stay relaxed, but then you will start to swim parallel to the beach, one way or the other, and you do go out a bit. Eventually the surf is going to take you back. So the concept to a megatrend is the same. It's a powerful force that if you understand and you characterize it and know what's happening, you know how to capitalize it. Now, surfers will use a rip to get out to the break. It's a fantastic way to do it. So a rip has a positive and negative outcome that's pretty significant. Yeah. And if you understand them and read them well, you get these benefits. So I'd say it's a really good analogy to the concept of a megatrend. It's a powerful force, which is actually, when you look at the water, is hard to see. You need to do a fair bit of analysis to understand it. Once you're in it, it's very obvious or something's happening. Yep. And then knowing what's happening allows you to respond strategically. And this is the concept of megatrends, where trends and drivers come together and change the environment around Australian agriculture, and understanding how they affect you is important. Yep.
One difference to the rip, Stefan, you just said 4 million Australians find themselves in a rip. 24 million Australians are going to find themselves in these mega trends you've been discussing. It's all of us. So why don't we kick off with some of these 7 key mega trends you think are important for us to be aware of?
So over the last 10 years, we've kept the data sets underneath the mega trends alive of all the trends, and the first one we point towards is called more from less. So this is the scarcity of food, water, mineral, energy resources. World population grows and demand grows, and then all of the innovation associated with efficiency. In energy, there's energy storage. In agriculture, there's agriculture is all about more from less, about less rainfall, less arable land. It's about using what you have more efficiently, and we've seen some fantastic examples of that this morning. There's another megatrend called Forever Young, about the aging population in the workforce that's relevant, and the growing healthcare expenditure, rising chronic illness. The megatrend on digital immersion is about artificial intelligence, data science, all the digital technologies that are reshaping what's possible on the farm. And I think they're going to have a profound effect. Then we also planetary pushback, the climate change, antimicrobial drug resistance, bacteria being resistant to antibiotics, herbicide and pesticide resistance, part of that will change the way the environment works. We've got to respond to that. So those are some of the really significant high-level shifts, but we'd say that for your organisation or your farm, there's a unique set of megatrends that you've got to work. So these are our high-level ones for Australia,
Yep.
and then the challenge is to sort of work out what your personal set of megatrends
Yep,
are.
yep. And you mentioned some other ones that I thought were relevant also, the rise of the Silk Highway.
Yes.
And the shifting of new markets,
Yes.
really for the economy. And so tell us a little bit about what the Silk Highway
Yeah.
trend means.
So this was a term we came up to describe the rapid growth of Asian economies. And we know the growth story is huge, growing at rates of 6% up to 9% per annum in, say, India and China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Taiwan, all playing a really significant role. But it's also not just the extent of growth, it's restructuring. These economies are moving out of an industrialisation phase into an advanced service sector phase where the imports that they're demanding, the goods and services they're demanding are education, health, finance, and food. Boutique food, provenance foods, and safety assured foods and functional foods. As we've seen this morning, an incredible case of a farmer who's gone towards the changing of not selling bananas and making use of waste bananas to turn it into a powder and a dietary fibre supplement with resistant starch, which is a functional food, which a lot of science shows is really good for us and is overall a growth market. So huge opportunity.
Another one you mentioned, Stefan, which I found really interesting, in some ways the counter trend to all the digitalisation going on and AI robotics, was actually reversion to valuing the physical world more. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that's something we believe is pretty strong in the analysis we've done. There is no real unplug option for any of us in this digital economy that we're immersed in, but I think it's a direction that we want to head in. The real and physical world will get more important around you, that human experience factor, other people, natural environments, the knowledge of where your food has come from and a real sort of authentic food product that isn't overly manufactured. These sorts of things are actually getting more important to the consumer. So I would say in terms of digital strategy, understanding that mega trend of what we've called great expectations for the experience, but understanding that real human-centered view of the world. Start your digital strategy with a view of the human at the center and the customer, not the tech.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Stefan, one of the really interesting aspects you outlined was the relationship between these mega trends. And you started your presentation by showing that mega trends overlap in some ways like a Venn diagram, or for those that can't remember their school days, interlocking circles, overlapping, where some people in spaces where several, if not all mega trends interact. And that feeds through really to the second part of what you specialise in, doesn't it? Which is you've got to understand where you are in that Venn diagram to formulate sensible decisions.
Correct. I mean, that's why we use a Venn diagram, to emphasise the overlaps. But the surfer who has a good day out in the surf has read the wind, the waves, the tides, all sorts of very powerful forces, and has got them all together, and then they're surfing inside the tube and having a fantastic time with a lot of powerful forces around them. So the same thing with megatrends, that understanding how they all come together and putting yourself in the right spot is a sweet spot of strategy, but I think requires absolute genius to find that spot. When you do, skill and genius, when you do find that spot, then it really boosts your business.
There would seem to be some opportunities for agriculture in that. You mentioned the rise of the Silk Road economies means they demand high quality food, and food value the provenance of it, but also perhaps this idea of great expectations or demand for real experiences heightens demand for provenance within even our local economy.
I think so. I think we want the Shanghai customer of Australian tomatoes to be able to swipe the smartphone over and use the technology, but that kind of disappears into the background. The most important thing is the safety, the imagery of the landscape where it came from, maybe a video of the farmer who made them, or even the ability to talk to that farmer from time to time may be what creates that personal connection. Food is something that is very personal. So, being able to know where it comes from matters a lot. Yeah.
So if, I guess here, one of the key messages that you've delivered is a lot of very important mega trends here. They overlap. If agriculture and businesses and industries within ag find the right sweet spot, these mega trends can work for them, and if they get in the wrong spot, they can work really badly against them.
Absolutely, and I think that's the concept of the mega trend. It is risks and opportunities. But that's where we're wanting to go for, is to find out, my view of a lot of strategy is to look at the big meta level trends and drivers, the mega trends, and put yourself into that space but then find out the specific things you need to do to connect to it. So you know, one of the Harvard Uni academics I quoted in my talk was, if you want big business, follow the big trends. And that is a philosophy used by some of the big sovereign wealth funds we work with that I think have been most successful, have taken that approach of first identifying what the mega trends are, the big thematic areas where there's opportunity and risk, and then connecting a business proposal or a company to invest in inside that space.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Stefan, I've heard it said that it's a natural conceit to assume the time in which you live in is special.
Yes.
And we're in an age where it feels like technology is moving incredibly fast. It seems like there are lots of mega trends to deal with. And there's a sense amongst some people in society that this is an era we've never seen before. Is that something you subscribe to, or has humanity always dealt with mega trends?
It certainly is said a lot, and there's a lot of hype at the moment. My own belief is no. There is nothing totally different or special about now. In the early 1900s, before jet travel, if you could imagine seeing a jet airliner take off, how revolutionary that would be, and then jet travel would happen, which would completely reinvent the world because of human mobility. At the same time, automobiles and so much. Photographs of New York City showing from about 1905 to 1910, the shift in what was on the road from horses to cars, and it was almost a complete shift within a 5 to 10 year period from horses and carriages to cars being driven. So you would have seen this incredible change. I think it's happening at all time through history. Now we are on this amazing platform of technological capability. The world is huge. We face enormous pressures around climate and geopolitical shifts, but I don't actually think it's inherent. It still remains very important for us to understand megatrends, to be able to understand what the future holds. Yep. But there is nothing special about now.
Right, and that's probably a really pertinent big picture message here, is that presumably the fact these trends have always existed means we've been able to navigate these things before. So while it can seem daunting, humankind has navigated through these sort of eras before, reasonably successfully.
I think so. If we look at our parents and my grandparents before World War II, they had to navigate a hell of a lot. And the fact I'm sitting here is testament to the fact that they did it. Yep. So through history, humanity has been able to navigate, innovate, find solutions, and that imperative is with us today as much as ever before. But we're on top of a much higher level of human knowledge and technological capacity, and we will find a way through all of the scary stuff, from climate change to bacteria resistance in antibiotics. We will find a way to the other end of that.
Yep, excellent. Well, we're thrilled that you're here with us today at the F2F.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on live stream, and we look forward to CSIRO and your unit more specifically playing a really important role in helping us navigate this future and make those practical decisions that you've alluded to.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stefan.